I
Right.
mean, fitness was always a part of my life, and that's a big prerequisite to who I am now because I always thought when I wanted to change my life, I always knew that I had to change my like nutrition and training. Every time when like a bad down spiral would happen or I wanted to get back on track, I'd always be like, "Oh, I need to get my diet and training right." Like no matter what, that would be like the first thing. And it
Right.
really is. It really is, because
Mm-hmm.
once we really truly want to fix ourselves internally, seeking externally for a solution in some ways can be one of the best options, like exercise if it's something
Sure.
positive, because that's what I did. And in return, it shaped my mentality, but seeking other vices, of course, isn't the best way. But yeah, that's really where it stemmed from.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our ongoing goal continues to be to inspire our listeners to live their best, audacious lives ever. It's always a pleasure to be here and share with you, and I appreciate you for taking the time out of your day to join us. Now, we'll be talking about transformation on this episode of the Audacious Living Podcast, and if you think about it, like a seedling that grows into that mighty tree, our journey towards living an audacious life starts with small steps that eventually lead to a significant growth and transformation. Today, we have a special guest who exemplifies this journey in a most inspiring way. You see, John Kimble is a transformative coach and motivational speaker who's overcome struggles and adversity to reach a place of healing and empowerment. Through his experiences, John has learned the importance of mindset and discipline in achieving personal growth and success. And the stories that you're going to hear from him are absolutely mind-blowing because it shows how he's overcome adversity in a major way, but equally as amazing as the steps that he took to get him to where he is today. You're absolutely going to love John's story as he'll reflect on his past struggles with vices and self-destructive behaviors and his life of crime at a young age. His journey towards self-discovery and healing serves as a beacon of hope for those who are looking to make positive changes in their lives. So without any further ado, here is my conversation with John Kimble. Enjoy. Hey, John, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you making the time to do this, my man. Thank you.
Oh, of course, man. Any time spent, pushing out the message is good. So I appreciate you for letting me come on here and do that.
Well, listen, I'm just a fan of any opportunities to be able to share messages and positive ones and ones that can help people, get to that better place. The whole focus and direction of this podcast is really encouraging individuals to live, that best audacious life ever. And, certainly with your work and your background and the things that you've gone through, you certainly know a lot about challenges, adversities, and getting to a place of healing and being better. And so, maybe as a starting point, you can kind of give a little bit of your backstory and fill our listeners in, John, as to what's happening in your world.
Yes, of course, man. I mean, that's the crazy thing, right? I'm such a young age. I transcended self because I realized all these universal truths because of what I've been through. So, I mean, I grew up in like Simpsonville, Louisiana. It's in America. And I mean, I was always grown, like I said, in a Christian-based home. Parents was like strictly setting the image and wanting me to fulfill that. However, I mean, I always got influenced by the wrong people, especially at a young age. It's easily to get influenced. So
Okay.
it was in that where I was living at, there was like the biggest known drug dealer in the city near where I was at, and his little brother and I became like best friends. And then we started hanging around each other. And who you hang around with is ultimately who you're going to turn out to be. Your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So
Sure.
started hanging out with him, and he always defended me and backed me up on like fights and stuff at school. So we became closer, grew a bond, and then I really saw the lifestyle that him and his brother was into, and then that really started to go down the path of like smoking weed. It all started with smoking weed, especially as a young kid. It's always starting like that.
Small,
And
right?
then
It's always small.
yeah, and then it always led to something big. That's why like I don't do any of that shit anymore. But anyway, yeah, and that led to always wanting and having the need to get money for weed or any drug. Like actually that started, and then we started getting into some gang violence because we thought we were gangsters, wannabe gangsters at that time. And
Mm,
I mean, it all just led downhill from there because I got charged with multiple felonies and misdemeanors for robbing a house in attempt to get money for drugs. And then that led me going down the path of just these vices and popping pills and Percocets and selling that because and it all started off something small like weed, but then it led to something
right.
big like selling more hard stuff. And then that really led me down my like depression. And then that ultimately led me to try to take my life twice and then end up in a psych unit and all this stuff. But I always say it's always the precursor and the prerequisite to who I am today.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to you share, um, and again, I said off the top, right? The adversity comes and it hits people, and I guess what really resonated with me is I think of my own journey as a young person and how easily, and I'm not the only one, but how easily we can be influenced and how easily we can be drawn down these pathways. Tell me a little bit about your home life. What was happening at home while you were out in the streets doing your thing? What was happening at home?
Yeah, it was very devastating to my parents because there was always good parents. I actually originally I'm adopted. Like I'm really Cuban descendant. My birth dad's from Cuba, and my mom's like Mexican American. But I was adopted into like an American family, and of course, like amazing people. And then, I mean, they were just devastated and heartbroken and very confused. But what the pain that they were feeling, honestly, was the universe or God telling them, or whoever people believe in, telling them to get out the way of what he was trying to do for me. So like I mean parents they try to do everything they could in their power, which was good. I mean everything they did was good. Nobody's perfect, but what they did was
Right,
close to it. But still the universe and God still led me on this hero's journey in this path and they were trying to deviate me from it, but it was needed to happen. Some people
right.
can deviate people when they're going down the wrong path, but other
Yep.
times, like in that situation, me, it was it couldn't there was no changing what I was going through because that led to who I am today, like I said. And I was always the most disciplined and the most committed down the wrong path in life. Like anything I did was so committed and everything. Even when I got arrested, the police officer was like, I never seen a kid do all this stuff at this like at one time this much. Usually they lead up, but you
Right.
just did it all at once. So I mean even then as like a criminal I still took things serious. And then the moment I transitioned and got in the right path in life, that's when everything like it just plummeted up from there. Because I mean,
Right.
you take somebody like an alcoholic that's addicted and they're so committed down that and they're so disciplined down that
Right.
path, and then you expose them to universal truths and laws and a higher frequency and get them in flow state and all this, and now they're operating off of purpose and now they're following down the purposeful pursuit path journey,
Yep. Yep.
and now they're more disciplined than the average being on
Hmm.
that journey because they were so committed down the wrong path. Now you switch
Right.
them on the right path in life, and then now they're just this person of change.
Tell me something. How young were you when we were talking about? So you the police officer was amazed at how deeply you were in this lifestyle. How old are you at this point?
Oh, I was like 15.
Come
15,
on.
yeah, it was
Wow.
15.
Wow.
Yeah.
And at that age, I know you said that that you were attracted to this lifestyle and you were getting protection. And was there anything else that you like? What was it something you were searching for that you weren't getting elsewhere? What was happening for you? Why you gravitated this so firmly?
Yeah, that question comes up a lot, but honestly, um, I mean, yeah, it was like the validation, like the male validation of like an external source. And I didn't really have any validation within myself because it's all neurosis, right? It's pain avoidance, avoiding like pain that was really deep ailing inside me. Like I didn't want to go down that path. Nobody does. Their conscience
Right.
always calls them to do something more purposeful and everything. But the more we ignore that conscience call, the louder that call gets. And that's what I did. I kept ignoring it and kept seeking for external solutions for an internal problem that ailed me most. And then that's where all of that criminal route started because I was seeking for an external solution, like I said, for an internal problem. And that really stemmed from, yeah, getting the validation from people like that.
Got you. Got you. So give me a sense of how bad things got for you before there was a change. Like how deep were you into this?
Right. So after I got arrested, I mean, I was still had that mindset. of like, oh, I'm never changing. Like, this is me. Like I wanted to go to jail and I wanted to go to prison, or I thought I did. They thought I wanted to go to those places and get admitted into a psych unit and all this. But after I had gotten arrested, I really started to reflect on like the pain I was causing to everyone, and
Mhm.
That's when I got into alcohol, and I started consuming that. It wasn't like years upon years, but it was like this short period of time where I consumed so much alcohol. So I was drinking one night, and we was crossing over this dude's property, and then he came and tried to stop us, but I was like threatening to kill him and all this stuff. So like my parents, I was telling them, I was like, I think I need help. And then they were like, oh, well, we don't really know, because they didn't want to send me there at the first place. But then, I mean, I was drunk, and then all this stuff was happening. So
Right.
that's the night my dad slammed the door in my face and told me maybe do need to go to like a psych ward. So I got admitted into one. And then that's ultimately where really everything started to change, because in there, like I said, I was addicted to alcohol at that time, and I
Right.
really wasn't relying on that source. So they wanted to isolate me away from the others so they can really like put intensive watch on me and everything. So that's really what happened. And in that time of like isolation, I began to reflect more, and I reflected on all the pain I was causing to everyone else, because
Hmm.
I mean, really, it's like every time when we cause pain within ourselves, like every time when we go down that path of like negativity and
Yep.
vices, we're hurting other people more than we are ourselves. Everything that we're externally giving out into the world is coming back internally, right back to us. So
Right.
I mean, I really started to reflect and see all the pain that my mom was being dealt with, and my dad, and all this. And then that caused me to change at that moment. But in there, they
Wow.
wanted to prescribe me to like therapists, rehab centers, and medication and all this stuff they put me on. But I really didn't listen to any of that. I barely showed up to the therapist calls. I didn't really listen to that. Didn't really take the medication. And then I got hooked on it again. I came off of this bad hangover one night on this couch that I'm sitting
Hmm.
on right here. And
Okay.
then that's the moment where everything changed. That's the moment where everything changed. But yeah, that's how bad it got. And then I got off the couch, and then the only thing I did was take true accountability for myself. Only
Wow.
thing I did, I ran in the bathroom mirror after waking up from the hangover, because I just felt this enlightening feeling, and then I just called myself out on everything I was doing wrong. I was truly just being honest. Honesty was like the only thing I needed. Acceptance.
Hmm. Interesting. And it's fascinating, John. So this were there sort of other external factors or people or forces that kind of helped you? Because it's what I'm hearing from you. It sounds like it's internally the light radiated from within, and you were on your new path. Was there is there external factors that had a play or helped you in this journey?
Yeah, it was, so the internet, it was like the informational age, of course, at this point in time. So I always started listening to like these personal development podcasts and everything, and these people who, let's say, came out of prison and had these massive success stories. And that really exposed me to the universal truths at first. It really, like, it's the law of exposure. Once you're exposed to it, there's no going back. You
Hmm.
always know that you're disobeying your conscience when you make that decision, because you got exposed to it in the first place, and you know that when you make that decision you regret it. So my conscience and I just got so fed up with all the fuck ups I was doing over and over and over again, that day when I woke up, like I just knew, like I was just fed up with myself. I was unhappy and unconfident with myself and everything, that like it would just cause me to change, because like I said, it's like the law of exposure. I was just so exposed, and I was seeking the path of growth at the time, like in my mind, but I really wasn't partaking in the actions. So I understood it. I just didn't actually do it. But when I woke up, that's the moment that I actually took action on it. And I actually ran into the accountability mirror, and I called myself out on everything I was doing wrong. And
Wow.
these are the things that I preach about, right? And we can really understand these like universal topics and truths if we get in like a higher frequency, which is like flow state. If you do like exercise, that's the feeling, right? When you finish that, you do something strenuous to the body or mind,
Right.
and then the
Right.
soul takes over.
Hmm.
So after I did that, I really got exposed to the truths and laws. So that's what I did after I woke up. I went and I ran until I couldn't anymore. I was just winded. And then that's when I really tapped into infinite intelligence, and I got to understand all these messages that was coming to me from above. And then
Right.
I had self-talk, right after that, like while I was doing all that stuff, that was strictly aligned to the person I wanted to become. And then that's all it took to change. It just took mindset change and habit change. And then that really changed everything.
They certainly can. You're absolutely correct on that one. The habit and the mindset, those are the starting points. And once you do that, well, actually, I think the awareness is a starting point, and then
Yeah.
the other two follow. But once that happens, you literally become an unrecognizable person. Like that, it's that powerful, impactful, it can do to you. I just want to go back for a second when you're put into the psychiatric ward. That's a really eye opening experience. Did you recognize how impactful that was in the moment? Or because I said you said you wanted to go to this lifestyle, but
Yeah.
when you sort of got there, did you recognize what where you were at really?
Yeah, I did, and that's what made me. That's one of the biggest curses to make me change. Because I got in there, and then I really saw that. I mean, I wasn't special. Everybody had the same. They were dealing with the same shit, and that's the biggest thing in depressed people's minds is they think that it's only them. They're so selfish. But once you like selflessly look outward and really see that everyone else is dealing with the same exact thing, and that you're just really being selfish within yourself. And I mean, that's when you get so open-minded and you get filled with clarity, and then you actually get to change when you begin to be honest and truthful with yourself. And in that moment when I walked in there, I was honest and truthful with myself. I was like, oh wow, this is like I don't want to be in a room full of these fucked up people, because I deep down I know that I'm not. So I really was in there, and I saw everybody was dealing with the same exact thing, if not worse.
Right, right, right. Oh, wow. Yeah, no. And sometimes that's enough to see it when you see it's right in front of you, right? You can't deny what's there, you can it's tangible, right? So when you see that,
Yeah.
that certainly can open up your eyes. So I'm just sort of following through the story. You came out of the psychiatric ward, you had a bit of a relapse on the couch that you're on, you sort of turned yourself around. Then what happened next?
Well, that's when people actually started to. Well, actually, no, I was still in high school at the time. So I went back to school, and then I was off of everything. I didn't take, well, at the time, I think I did. I think I was still, no, no, no. After I woke up on the couch, yeah, I was completely done with everything. I went back to school, and people actually saw me change. And they were like, wow, like this mindset changed, this habit changed. And they saw everything, like, because I always documented everything. I always posted everything on my story. Like when I
Okay.
was about to get arrested, I knew I was about to get arrested because there was like cops passing up and down my road, and that was enough actually to just scare me straight. Because I mean, let's just say prison, for example. If you walk in there, like the second you get in there, I'm sure nobody wants to just like, oh, I love this place. That's
Right.
not. I don't think that's how it works. So that was enough to scare me straight. But yeah, they just saw me just this elevated person. I mean, I was reading all these books like the Aristotle and the Art of War and stuff like this, and but not only was I reading, but I had like this early wake up time that I never missed, or early workout, and just my habits were just strictly aligned to the person, and the words I was saying was just really and truly focused on who a better me for the future. And everybody saw that, so they asked me and came to me with all their problems, and then that's when I started to help them out with their problems, because I never even knew you can charge for coaching or life coaching or training.
Right.
So I
Right.
mean, fitness was always a part of my life, and that's a big prerequisite to who I am now, because I always thought when I wanted to change my life, I always knew that I had to change my like nutrition and training. Every time when like a bad down spiral would happen or I wanted to get back on track, I'd always be like, "Oh, I need to get my diet and training right." Like no matter what, that would be like the first thing. And it
Right.
really is. It really is, because
Mhm.
once we really truly want to fix ourselves internally, seeking externally for a solution in some ways can be one of the best options, like exercise if it's something
Sure.
positive, because that's what I
Sure.
did. And in return, it shaped my mentality. But seeking other vices, of course, isn't the best way. But yeah, that's really where it stemmed from. I never knew you could charge for this stuff, and I just did it for free because I wanted to help people. Like I just
Right.
felt obligated because all the pain I caused and was dealt with all my life. I just felt obligated to give back to everyone else.
Are there you talk about wanting to help people? Are there certain individuals that you target or that you want to focus on, or who are you helping? I guess.
Yeah, it's really everyone out there, but the main specific people is especially men, like men out there who are struggling with really like procrastinating on becoming their best selves. Like they're plagued with these vices and addictions and these alcohols, and they can't get off the couch. They're the ones they're the couch potatoes. They can't fucking realize that their problem is very minimal, and then it's just a common ass problem that they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
This depression or anxiety or these mental disorders that they label themselves with. And I mean, it's really just like I say, habit and mindset change, and that's where this all stemmed from, was like fitness training and life coaching. But I always say that the body and mind, like training the body, is always like it's just a part of like life coaching,
Right.
because it always realigns you to your best self, like I said before. But yeah, it's mainly the men out there who struggle with that, but it's everybody. I mean, I've trained women's in their 50s,
Sure.
like people in India, an 18 or 17-year-old in India. So it's all kind of people. It ranges from everywhere, but it's mainly that. Yeah.
Got you. Got you. Now you also struggled with suicidal thoughts. I wonder if you could talk about that and what was happening for you at that time.
Yeah, I did. And that was really because of the alcohol consumption. I mean, that addiction, and every time when the problem would arrive, I would try. So this is the thing: when your problem came to you because of comfort, you don't try to cure it with comfort, with more comfort. And then that's what I try to do. So problem arrived because I was getting too comfortable, and I was just getting too much in my thoughts, and then this depression and whatever, that I tried to succumb that comfort with more comfort, like alcohol. And the moment I did that, that's when, like, that's why I can't drink anymore, because the last two times I drank, I tried to take my life. So I tried to like dislocate my throat from my neck the last time I drank. And that's why I do not do that anymore, because it's just running to vices, and like I say, external solutions is not the right thing to do from something that stems internally within, like a problem. It's just not. So yeah, that's mainly what happened.
I gotta say, John, I'm just listening to you, and as you share, different aspects of your story, there was really some powerful stuff that was happening around you in the negative sense. Um, when you sort of look back at it now, like, what do you think about when you look at those things you're involved with? What goes through your mind?
Right. Yeah. I mean, nobody. I don't think anybody likes reflecting and going back on the past, but that's what's most needed to be done. Right. The areas that we want to elevate most in is right on the other side of everything in which we're most avoiding, and that's most painful for us.
Hmm.
So that was most painful for me. But actually reflecting on the past, it's like, you look and you see the person that you was once before, and you can. And what I do is actually, I envision me still being that person. And then now that I'm more elevated and a more better mindset and state of mind, like I can't stand thinking that if that person was still here today, the old me. So that's what I love doing in the morning, is actually reflecting on the past. Anything that I regret in the
Right.
past, I use to better myself for today or for the future, because I mean, our regret is our guidance. It's the
Sure.
prerequisite to who we're going to become in the future. So it's nothing to really run from. And we can't choose to
Hmm.
regret anything. People's like, no, I don't regret that as a kid. But I mean, you can't really choose to regret shit.
Right.
So I use that regret as like a guide to, yeah, really focus and laser focus on my weaknesses, not really exploiting my strengths, because we
Gotcha.
want to be elevated in all areas in life.
Do you even recognize that person before anymore? Like give me a sense of how far the distance is from where you were to where you are now.
Yeah, no, it's fucking huge, dude. But he's still there though. Like he's still there. Like I still have these, like, yeah, of course, I wake up like negative. Not everybody wakes up positive all the time. Not 24/7, but
Sure.
I still have these like intentions of. It's usually anger. I've always dealt with anger. That's why I actually got into boxing, because I've always dealt with anger since I was like 8 years old. I got into boxing, but yeah,
Right.
that person's still there. Of course, nobody's habits like that go away forever, especially if they've lived it for so long in such a negative way. But that's why an enlightenment state, like I say, like the high frequency and flow state, is earned, because nothing good in this life, truly good in this life, is given to us. So
Mm.
that's why I get up at my 2:40 a.m. wake up time. I don't think I haven't missed
Wow.
that in about a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my 2:40 a.m. wake up time, my workout, and my morning reflection, and that's what I need to get rid of like that old me's intrusive thoughts, and really acting on the thoughts. So that's what helps me keep myself aligned, and that's what everybody needs, is a morning process, and just a
Sure.
process in general that realigns them with their best self, because we know all this wisdom and knowledge, but many or few people applicate it. We know it,
Yes.
but few applicate it. And that process really strictly aligns me to who I want to become, and it shows me that vision and helps me follow through with the actions.
As you talk, again, I'm just so impressed with just your overall, well, certainly the maturity that you and ownership. You talked about accountability as well too, and I think that's a huge one. It's clear to me that it wasn't just one thing that you did. I see there's a series
Mhm.
of steps that you took, that practices that you embraced, behaviors that you changed. So I get it. There isn't just one particular thing, but is there one that kind of stands out more than the others?
Oh, I always say it's fitness. Like burp, like anything that I do, like intent, like physical action. So hitting the floor, doing burpees or something, that always realigned me to my best self. Every time I was negative or going negative, even at that time, if I went and boxed or something, all that pain was less alleviated, at that moment. Because when we push past like the bounds of our body and mind, we
Hmm.
connect on a soul and spiritual level.
Right.
So all the pain that was ailing us once before is all gone now because we've reached a higher state. So we're looking past all the negativity that was plaguing our minds. So that's what I always do. Even like before anything I do, even if I'm going negative now, I still like hit the floor and do some burpees or push-ups or something like that.
Nice, nice, nice.
But that was what
Uh,
worked for me. Other people might be different. Other people might be
sure.
drawing something. So
Yep. Yep. So, and that's a really key point, like identifying what works for you, because we're all different. We're not all the same. We all, we need to require different things, and so what works for you is great, and that's why I think you can take from what people do, but also you still have to create your own pathway, your own laneway, if you will. So I'm hearing that loud and clear.
yeah.
Um, you sort of talked earlier about the old it's still there, right? And I think that's important to be able to recognize. They call that positive toxicity, where you pretend like everything is great when there's still issues
Mm.
there, right? And so the old you still is there. How do you deal with those old temptations, or how do you manage them?
Yeah, right. It's always there, but I just deal with it through my morning process. It really, like I say, my early wake up, because if you run into a win in the morning, it's really hard to go through any losses throughout the day, because you start with a win, like an early wake up, boom. Now your mind is primed to that winning mentality. So
Yep.
anything, even little that gets in your way that requires discipline, you crush it, like you execute it, because you just got up at a time that you don't normally get up at.
Hmm.
And I mean, you did something that you're not really used to, and you did something that was most hardest for you. So I just do that, right? I wake up, because if I miss my early wake up, or if I do something like that, then I mean, I'm off for the whole day, so I might
Mm,
will succumb to those vices or something and desires. So that's why I have to have that morning process, because it always gets me in that higher frequency to, I mean, really put me past all the bullshit that, like I said, that was plaguing my mind. So
gotcha.
it's really just getting into a more positive state, replacing something of a lower nature for something of a higher nature. So
Got you.
I
Got
always
you.
have to have that process and program. And that's why I go around pushing this message, because that's what I teach and that's what I give to others now, is my process and program. I make one for them to really alleviate anything they're dealing with,
Yep.
and it really constructs a better mindset.
So what would you then say um, is your key message to individuals? So that person out there that's struggling, or maybe they're at the point they've got to make a key decision or important decision. What is your message to them to help them get them through that moment?
Right, and this actually aligns to the other question you just asked. It's like slowly working on the daily disciplines, because over time, like now, if anything comes into my mind that used to before, it's like a non-negotiable now. It just gets
Mm,
crushed. Like I don't even think about doing it now, because over time I've just constructed that individual just like an unbreakable mentality, right? An unbreakable mindset. Over time, like 1% better every single day is what people really need to focus on. That's what I focused on to create who I am now. Like I don't think I do anything pleasurable that I really want to do at all throughout my day. Only thing I'm doing is just giving to others. pushing
Right.
everything to others, because everything that I wish to receive internally is what is most needed to be given externally onto others. And I understand that. And that's why I go out and I give, because in return, I feel good myself. Sometimes it's selfish, but it's what we need. We really need to work deep within, on ourselves in order to give that person to everyone else. And we do that through working on ourselves slowly, day by day, slowly, day by day, not really pushing, giving your all out one specific area and then burning out, because over time it builds something. You plant little seeds that grow over time.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's really outstanding, and I certainly love that. Again, love your dedication and just the manner in which you've committed to this new life. And you've got to be committed. You have to stick it through and see it through. You've definitely done that. So, John, I'm super impressed and really appreciated the time we've had chatting here. For our listeners that say they wanted to connect with you, perhaps work with you, where can we send them, John?
Kimble_fit on Instagram and KimbleFit.com on my website. I'm always on Instagram. Like, I document everything. Like I said, I don't think I've missed a post in like 560 days going now. It's like
Beautiful.
every single day I just get up and then I make my posts and everything for the followers.
Amazing. Well, look, I'm super impressed. Outstanding stuff. Keep up the great work, and there's no question in my mind that you definitely are on that pathway of living that audacious life, my friend. So congrats.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me. Push the message, dude. Thank you.
That's it. Back we are here on the podcast, and when you think about John's journey, it really highlights the transformative power of self-reflection, discipline, and a commitment to personal growth. By taking small daily steps towards self-improvement and aligning with a higher purpose, we can overcome challenges and live a life more fulfilling and audacious. If you've been inspired by John's story and love to connect with him, you can certainly do so. His contact details are in the show notes, and I encourage you to reach out for him. He offers personalized coaching or guidance on your own journey towards you living your best life. Thank you for tuning into the Audacious Living Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking, following us on your favorite podcast platform, or sharing this episode with a friend, or even a 5-star review and a rating of some sort. Your support helps us continue to grow and inspire more individuals to live their best audacious life. Remember, everyone has a power to transform their lives because it lies within them, and it's simply time to shine bright and embrace the journey that you're on. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.